Okay guys, so video today, so a bit of context. Been having some issues with my shifter, specifically getting it into first sometimes is a little bit temperamental, so like you got to put it in and it kind of gets stuck and won't go in. Once it's actually in first, it's working fine. It's just the process of actually, like, as you're trying to get it into first, it's a bit stiff. Every other gear is fine, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, reverse, all good. So basically, I'm not pretty sure, like I think it might be the slave cylinder that's actually a bit cooked, and then you pressing your clutch in and you think that the slave cylinder's engaged, but it's not actually engaged properly. That's why you're kind of getting that problem putting it into first. But that also doesn't make sense because it's only really happens in first, doesn't really happen in any of the other gears. So yeah, a bit strange. So I can't really be bothered doing the slave cylinder on this car because it's not an outside of the transmission slave cylinder. It's actually a concentric slave cylinder, which is inside the actual gearbox. So it's a big job because you got to actually take the box off. So as a stopgap measure and hopefully saving me from having to do that job is I've actually bought Malwood Automotive short shifter. As you can see, it cost me $395. The idea is we'll put a short shifter in to try and reduce some of the selection error of putting it into gear. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly show you what you actually get in there. You don't get much, to be honest. There's no instruction sheet or anything. You literally just get the shifter, Ultimate Street, with a boot on. Some of them don't come with boots. This one came with a boot, and it's just packed full of grease under there. So that's what you get in the box. And you also get the screws. The screws for actually screwing it in. Now that's all you get in the box. There's no, and your tax invoice. There's no actual instructions or anything. So basically what I'll do is I'll take a comparison before and after. So I'll take a vertical shot here and just show you the actual throws before, and then we'll show you the throws after, and I should be able to splice them to be one after the other in the video so you can actually get a comparison of how short they are. So that's first, that's second, try to make this obvious, neutral, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and then obviously reverse. But yeah, so that's the throws. That's how far it is. Supposedly this kit is going to reduce the throws by 40%. So we'll see if that actually happens. The only other thing is the Malwood. So I chose to go with Malwood Automotive's one because I know Malwood as a company. I haven't worked with them or anything like that, but people seem to talk quite highly of them on Google reviews, and I've heard a few different YouTube channels talk about them as good blokes. So they stake their name on this. This isn't like an eBay one. This is like one they actually design. It's Malwood Automotive's short shifter. It's not like some eBay one they just stuck their name on. So if it's crap, it's their reputation they're putting on the line. So that's why I decided to go with this one as opposed to just some no-name Chinese eBay brand. And then the only other thing you will really need for the job, I'll show you step by step, but the only other thing is we're going to use some of this formed in place gasket maker because they recommend. Malwood actually in their email to me said, when I bought it, said, oh, you're going to need to put some sealant along the actual part where this bolts here, like some sealant along here where it actually screws in, because they said otherwise it might leak. So yeah. All right, let's get started.
Get your hands underneath it, or a screwdriver or something flat, just lift up and pull back. You've got this little tab here, it's never going to come up from there, it's always got to come back. Alright, so we're going to take out the top part of the center console. This is basically clipped in here, so just grab.
How I did it was I hooked my thumb here and just lift it up and like just this. Pops, because it's got the one there and another one here. That's two.
Yeah, and then there's a couple more here, but they should lift out quite easily.
There's another one there.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just sort of, and the reason you can't leave this in, it seems, is because this whole bracket unit, which sits on top of the shifter, would not be able to fit through this hole here. The hole here is too small for the whole bracket to come out through, which you'll see. But yeah, that's it. You just got to pop those out. It's actually pretty straightforward. But then there's obviously the wiring for the cigarette lighter and the AUX, which we'll unclip next. Yeah, so after popping the clips out of this thing, we realized that you actually don't even need to take the clips out of the cigarette lighter and the AUX port, because you can just pull it out of the way, and then you're still going to have enough clearance to lift this out. So yeah, the reason you need it out of the way though, and you can't leave it in, is because this is part of a bracket, and this whole boot section will lift, which we'll see in a bit. But yeah, so it's good, you don't actually have to unclip. Yeah, so now we got that. Next step is to take these two 13mm nuts off, so the undo direction is towards the driver's side for your own reference. But yeah, so they're pretty straightforward. We'll take that off next. Yeah, so now we've actually undone the actual shifter, which was bolted here. You can see what needs to come out. So mine's actually all destroyed, the rubber on it, but this is part of one metal plate that has brackets that run up here and bolt here. So that's why you're not going to be able to, even if you undid this and undid this nut here, you're not going to be able to pull this whole metal plate up through this hole. It's too big. That's why you got to actually unclip this and move it out of the way so you can lift this whole plate up. I'll show you that now. Yeah, so next you need to undo these. They're 8mm is the size. Do that next. Yeah, so to get this plate out, the first thing is obviously you undo these. There was 8mm through there, which we've taken out now. And now here, 1, 2, and there's 3 and 4 up the front. There's actually bolts through there, but you can't access the head of it from here because it's like covered over. But there's nuts underneath the car. It's actually towards it's actually directly where the tail shaft bolts to the back of the box. I'll take a video where they're located now, and we'll show you how to get them off. Okay, so here under the car, this is the driver's side here, roughly underneath the driver's seat. So that's kind of the position of it. So here's the cross member of the transmission. Here's your transmission towards the back of the trans. You've got your boot here. Let me try to zoom this camera out if I can. 2.5. I can't. Okay. So here's your coupling where your tail shaft bolts to the back of your box, and then if you go past that, up the top there, you can see. So you can see there's one of the four bolts. One of the four bolts that hold that plate from the top in. So there's 1, and then obviously 2 and 3 and 4, and the size they're a 13mm. So we'll give that a shot now.
Okay, so the bolts from underneath are done. Now you just got to pull these brackets out so you can clear it. Both the brackets are out, and you can start to lift it. Just lift it straight out. This rubber boot's torn, but normally you'd be a bit more careful. Just make sure the rubber boot comes out evenly. And that's it. That's the part.
Okay, so now you got that plate out. You're exposed to what you actually came here to change. So here, one, if it'll focus on what I want it to focus on. 1, 2, and 3 and 4 on the other side, and then the shifter will lift up. Yeah, so just a reference point, the 4 bolts are 13mm, so we had to use a fair few extensions to get the clearance to undo them with a socket. But yeah, there you go. Turn your torch off. So, yeah, so just got to lift it out now. We'll see how she looks when she comes out. So what does that look like under there? So obviously there's a bit of fucking fluid in there, and then the actual slot, yeah, okay, just slots directly into the center of that. Yeah, and that's where they want the seal in there between the screws. Yeah, no sweat. Okay, so you can see on the short shifter, this knob here, that you try to keep it in basically like a neutral position as best you can. But what you'll see is that is gonna go in that circle hole right in the middle there. So that's what you're aiming for. And also gonna be putting some sealant all along this surface here, as advised by Malwood in their email to me. So we'll get that done next. Okay, so now we put the gasket maker, the black stuff all around the edge of that there, which will create a seal, and then yeah, now we're just bolting the shifter back on. Okay, so it's now in and it's now bolted down. So Mal would actually give you replacements for these bolts, which actually bolt the shifter down. They're Allen keys actually, which is shit because we didn't have really long extension bars for Allen keys, so it made tightening it really hard. If they just opted to use a normal socket head, it would have made everything a lot easier, but you know, they did what they did. So yeah, they're all down, they're all tight. So there's obviously sealant between the two surfaces, and seems like it's, you know, doing what it needs to be doing. So yeah, we'll put it all back together in the reverse order and see how she is. Okay, so car's back together, everything's finished, shifter's back on. So first thing I noticed is like it's definitely got less play, just like when you're actually trying to just move it around playing the actual stick. However, that could also be because the boot was stuffed on the old one of these, and now it's got a boot that's actually properly holding it in place. But when it comes to the actual throws, they don't look actually that much different. I'm kind of shocked if you actually see here. So that's first, that's second, try to make this obvious, neutral, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and then obviously reverse. But that's third, neutral, fourth, first, neutral, second, third again. Like, that doesn't look that much. Sixth, that doesn't look, I mean, maybe I'm just not remembering it, but yeah, it doesn't seem like it's, I expected it to just be like just that far, like tiny movement. But yeah, anyway, we'll see how it drives. And yeah, but yeah, that's, and I've decided I've left the plate that's underneath here a little bit loose because I'm going to end up replacing that because the boot's stuffed. So yeah, I've put it all back together, like, but it's not, like, everything's not tight because it's like, well, everything except for that plate is tight in there. But yeah, so yeah, that's how to do a short shifter, and that's what the throws look like now. Supposedly 40% reduction. I don't really see how that's 40%, but yeah. Well, I'm also probably going to change the actual shift, like knob and everything, but at a later date. But yeah, for now, that's it. Okay guys, so I thought I'd do a quick update. So it's been a week since I put the short shifter in. So now I've driven it for a week. I can sort of comment on whether I think it's value for money or along those lines. So basically how I'll explain it is it's kind of tough. First thing, it's tough for me to know because if you see earlier in the video, the actual so obviously the dust cover underneath this is ripped, but that shouldn't make a difference to the overall feel of the shifting. But the actual boot that's on the actual shifter there was all cracked and stuffed, and dirt and stuff had been getting inside. So that could have got like destroyed all the grease because they actually packed grease into the like part where the shifter is, like the circular column where the shifter sits. They actually packed grease in there. So the fact that the boot was all cracked and stuff meant that, you know, dust and crap could have been getting in there, and then you know, drying up all the grease, or, you know, fucking all the grease up. So it's kind of hard to know from that point of view. Plus this is brand new, and that shifter was the factory one. So, you know, it's, you know, lot older. This is brand new. That was like 13 years old or however old it is. So hard to know from that point of view, but the overall driving experience. So the actual vertical throws, so, you know, third to fourth, don't feel that much quicker. So like, I feel like I could do that just as quick with the old shifter as I can with these shifters, with this short shifter. But where I do feel a difference is the distance, the lateral distances. So, and the speed that I can change from lateral. So like if I'm here, right, I'm in neutral. If I put it into reverse like that, it feels a lot cleaner and quicker for me to go into first than it did with the other shifter. The other shifter felt like it was kind of a little bit temperamental doing those. So obviously doing those like horizontal changes like that way felt more temperamental. This definitely feels tighter in that regard. So, I mean, I guess you could save yourself some time if you're in first and you were going to skip second, skip third, and just kind of go to fourth, or to, you know, I don't know, maybe you're in third and you just want to go like to fifth. You may feel like a slight improvement in that, because it does feel a little bit better in that way. But for a short shifter, you'd think it'd be improving it, not just the horizontal change speed, but also the vertical change speed. And yeah, it doesn't feel like it's done that much. So is it worth $400, or roughly how much it cost me? Not really. And also like and subscribe, guys. Thanks.